Every Pokemon game has a rival, and some of them have more than one. But let's be honest, some of them barely even feel like one. Some are iconic, some push you the entire game, and some are just kinda there. So today, I'm ranking every Pokemon rival from worst to best. Not based on strength necessarily, but based on personality, character growth, and how much they actually feel like a real rival. Because a good rival should make you want to beat them. And a bad one, you kinda forget they exist, or they just straight up annoy you. Also, these are my own personal opinions, so if you disagree, feel free to let me know in the comments what you think. So without wasting any more time, let's get into it. Alright, starting us off at the bottom, and the absolute worst rival. It's definitely Hop. Now look, I don't hate Hop, but he might be the only rival where I felt like I was in a tutorial for the entire game. Hop is super energetic, super friendly, and constantly reminding you that his brother is Leon. Like, don't worry Hop, I know, you've told me. A lot. And that's kind of the problem. It feels like most of his character isn't really his. His whole personality is Leon's younger brother, and he likes to remind you of that every chance he gets. And then you get into the battles. He picks the starter that's weak to yours, which already is not that great, and then you fight him over and over and over again. And no matter how many times you beat him, and no matter how far in the game you are, he's still like, wow, you've really mastered type matchups. Hop, this is the 6th battle. I promise you, I figured that out a while ago. Even new players don't need this. To be fair, he does have a bit of an arc. He starts to lose confidence and questions himself, which can be interesting, but it just doesn't hit hard enough to make up for how repetitive he feels throughout the entire game. So for me, Hop is going straight into last place. I'm sorry, he just doesn't feel like a good rival. Next up, we've got Callum and Serena. And honestly, they're just pretty forgettable. They're not annoying like Hop, they just don't really feel like rivals. Throughout the game, they show up, battle you a few times, but there's never really a moment where it feels like they're trying to beat you. It's more like they're just checking in with you. And personality-wise, there's just not a whole lot going on. They don't have a strong arc, they don't really change throughout the game, and they don't leave much of an impression by the end. Nothing about them really stands out. Now I will say that the friend group dynamic in Kalos is cool, and they do fit into that. But as a rival, they just don't bring much to the table. So for me, Callum and Serena are going near the bottom. Not bad, just very, very forgettable. So Hao is actually kind of interesting, because on paper, he has a lot of the same traits as Hop. He's super friendly, always positive, and honestly just happy to be there. But the difference is Hao actually feels a little bit more natural. He's not constantly explaining things to you, he's not over-the-top repetitive, and he kind of fits the laid-back Alola vibe really well. That said, as a rival, he still doesn't bring much pressure. Most of your battles with him don't feel super intense, and it never really feels like he's trying to push past you. It's more like he's just enjoying the journey, which is great for him, not so great if you're looking for a competition. Now to give him credit, he does have a bit of subtle growth. By the end, he starts taking things more seriously and even becomes a kahuna, which is actually a really cool outcome for his character. But compared to stronger rivals, he just doesn't leave the same impact. So Hao is definitely above bottom tier, but still closer to the lower end. He's a good character, just not a great rival. Next up, we've got Brendan and May. Now these two are a bit different from the rivals we've talked about so far, because they don't really feel like rivals at all. They're more like really supportive neighbors who just happen to battle you sometimes. Throughout Hoenn, they show up at a few key points, challenge you to a battle, and then kind of just disappear again. And that's the biggest issue. They don't really have a strong presence throughout the game, so it never really feels like you're in competition with them. There's no real rivalry, no tension, just occasional check-ins, similar to Callum and Serena. Hey, want to battle real quick? And to be honest, some of those battles can actually catch you off guard, especially that early root fight if you're not ready. But aside from that, there's not much development. They don't really grow, their personality stays pretty consistent, and by the end of the game, they just don't leave a huge impression. They also, however, fit that relaxed tone of Hoenn, and they're definitely not annoying or overbearing. But as actual rivals, once again, they just feel more like companions. So for me, Brendan and May land somewhere in the lower middle. Not bad, just also not very memorable. They just don't fit that role of rival as much as some of the other rivals throughout the series. Next is Bianca, and Bianca is kind of interesting, because she's not really a rival in the traditional sense. She's not super competitive, she's not constantly trying to beat you, and honestly, she struggles a lot throughout the game. But that's also what makes her stand out. Bianca's whole story is about figuring out who she is. She starts off unsure of herself, dealing with pressure from her family and not really knowing what she wants to do. And instead of becoming stronger in the typical rival way, she grows as a person. By the end of the game, she finds her own path working with Professor Juniper and gains confidence in a way that feels really natural. Now, as a rival, she doesn't really push you much. Most of your battles with her aren't very challenging, and it never really feels like you're in competition. But as a character, she's actually really solid. So she's kind of right in the middle, between some of the more forgettable or annoying rivals and some of the really good ones. Not a great rival, but a genuinely good character. Now we've got Charon, and he's completely different from Bianca. From the very start, Charon actually feels like a real rival. He's serious, he's focused, and his entire goal is to become stronger and eventually champion. Every time you run into him, it feels like he's actively trying to improve, not just traveling alongside you. But what makes Charon really interesting is that his story doesn't just stay about strength. As the game goes on, he starts questioning what it actually means to be strong. Is it just about winning battles, or is there more to it? And that's where he starts to grow. By the end, he shifts from being purely competitive to someone who understands strength in a broader way, which even leads into his role as a gym leader later on. Now, compared to the absolute top-tier rivals, he's maybe not as flashy or iconic, but he's consistent, he's believable, and he actually feels like someone you're competing with the entire game. So for me, Charon is landing in the upper middle, a really solid rival and a big step up from the ones before him. Next up, we've got Barry, and Barry is a lot. From the moment you meet him, he's already running into you, taking a mile a minute, and threatening to fine you if you're late. Which never makes sense, but you just kind of go with it. Barry's whole personality is built on energy. He's impatient, loud, always in a rush, and honestly, it makes him really memorable. Every time he shows up, you know it's Barry, and as a rival, he actually does a pretty solid job. He challenges you consistently, his team improves over time, and it feels like he's genuinely trying to keep up with you. Now, he doesn't have the deepest character arc. He's pretty much the same high-energy person from start to finish. But he doesn't really need one, because what he lacks in depth he makes up for in personality and memorability. He's funny, he's recognizable, and he actually feels like someone you're racing against. So for me, Barry lands right in the middle, a really solid rival, just not quite at that top-tier level. Next is Hugh, and Hugh feels different from most rivals right away, because he actually has a clear reason for what he's doing. He's not just trying to become champion, he's trying to get his sister's stolen Pokémon back, and that motivation is always there. Every time you run into him, you can feel that he's focused, he's driven, and he's not just battling for fun. Compared to someone like Barry, Hugh is a lot more serious. He still has personality, he's not overly edgy or anything, but there's a clear purpose behind everything he does, and that makes him feel more grounded. Now as a rival, he also does a solid job. He challenges you consistently, and it feels like he's keeping pace with you throughout the game. But where he really stands out is how connected he is to the main story. He's directly involved with Team Plasma, and his personal goal ties into everything that's happening. The only thing holding him back a bit is that he's not quite as iconic as some of the top rivals. But overall, he's one of the more underrated ones, and he definitely is above the middle. A strong rival with real motivation, and a nice step up from the ones before him. Wally is easily one of the most unique rivals in the series. When you first meet him, he's not confident, he's not experienced, and he's not even sure if he can be a trainer at all. You literally help him catch his first Pokémon, which is something you never see with other rivals. But that's what makes his story so good. Over the course of the game, Wally slowly grows stronger, not just as a trainer, but as a person. He gains confidence, he starts believing in himself, and by the time you face him later on, he's completely different. And that final battle, it actually feels earned. It's not just another rival fight. It feels like a payoff to everything he's been working toward. Now, he's not the most present rival throughout the entire game, and he doesn't challenge you as often as others, but his growth alone carries him really far. Wally is definitely in the upper tier, one of the best character arcs in Pokémon, and a really memorable rival because of it. Next up, we've got Bede, and honestly, Bede is a breath of fresh air, especially coming from the same game as Hop. After so many friendly rivals, it's actually nice to have someone who just doesn't like you. From the start, Bede is arrogant, dismissive, and completely convinced that he's better than everyone else. And unlike some rivals, he actually acts like it. Every time you battle him, it feels like he's trying to prove something, not just to you, but to himself. And that's where his character gets interesting. He's been chosen and backed by Chairman Rose, and a lot of his confidence comes from that that validation. So when he loses that support, you start to see him crack. That turning point where he gets rejected is what really sets him apart, because instead of just disappearing, he actually changes. He finds a new path, trains under Opal, and comes back as a completely different kind of trainer. Now as a rival, he's consistent, he's memorable, and he actually brings some tension to the game. So for me, Bede lands firmly in the top tier. He has a strong personality, real character growth, and one of the most interesting rivals in the series. Next, I've got Gladion, and Gladion is one of the few rivals that actually feels connected to the main story in a significant way. From the moment you meet him, he's more serious, more distant, and clearly dealing with something. He's not here to be friendly, and he's definitely not here just to battle for fun. Everything he does ties back to his family, and his relationship with Lusamine. He's trying to break away from the Aether Foundation, protect the people he cares about, and figure out who he is outside of all of that. And that gives his battles a lot more weight. When you fight Gladion, it doesn't feel like a casual rival encounter. It feels personal. Now personality-wise, yeah, he's got that edgy vibe, but it actually works here, because there's a reason behind it. You can see the conflict, you can see the pressure he's under, and you can see him slowly start to change over time. Now he's not quite as consistent as some of the very top rivals, but the story, connection, and emotional depth carry him a lot. So for me, Gladion lands right near the top. A strong rival with real stakes, and one of the most story-driven characters in the series. Next is Nemona, and honestly, Nemona might be the most pure rival we've had in a long time. From the very beginning, she's not here for the story, she's not here for some bigger goal, she's here to battle you, and that's what makes her stand out. Nemona is already strong, like champion level strong, but she holds herself back just so she can grow alongside you, which is actually kind of wild. She's constantly pushing you, challenging you, and getting excited every time you improve. And unlike some of the earlier rivals, it never feels like she's just checking in. It feels like she genuinely sees you as competition. Now yeah, she's super energetic and maybe a little too obsessed with battling, but in this case it works, because it finally feels like you have a rival who's just as invested in the competition as you are. She doesn't have the deepest character arc, but she doesn't really need one. Her role is to be your rival, and she absolutely nails it. So for me, Nemona lands right near the top. One of the best modern rivals, and one of the few that actually feels like a true competitor the entire game. Now we're down to the final two, and at number 2, we've got Silver. And Silver is easily one of the most interesting rivals in the entire series. When you first meet him, he's not just competitive, he's straight up hostile. He steals his starter Pokémon, he treats people and Pokémon badly, and his entire mindset is built around one idea, that strength is all that matters. And for a while, that's all he is. Every time you battle him, he's aggressive, impatient, and completely focused on winning no matter what. But what makes Silver stand out is what happens over time. As the game progresses, you start to see cracks in that mindset. He begins to realize that strength alone isn't enough, that the way he treats his Pokémon actually matters. And that shift is very subtle, but it's very powerful. By the end of the game, he's not the same person you met at the beginning. He's still serious, and he's still driven, but there's growth, and that's something most rivals don't have. On top of that, his connection to Giovanni adds another layer. He's not just some random rival, he's the son of one of the most iconic villains in Pokémon, and you can see how that influences who he becomes. Now as a rival, he's consistent, he challenges you throughout the game, and he actually feels like someone you're overcoming, not just beating. The only reason he's not number 1 is because someone else defines the role just a little more cleanly. But still, Silver is easily one of the best, a rival with real development, real depth, and one of the strongest arcs in Pokémon. And finally, at number 1, we've got Blue. And honestly, this is just what a rival is supposed to be. From the very beginning, Blue sets the tone. He's confident, he's arrogant, and he treats you like you're already behind. And the thing is, you are always behind him. He always picks the starter that has the advantage over yours. He shows up at key moments to challenge you, and throughout the entire game, it feels like you are the one chasing him. And that's what makes him so effective. Blue doesn't just feel like another trainer. He feels like someone you're trying to catch up to, and then he becomes champion before you do. That moment alone cements him as one of the best in the series, because when you finally face him, it's not just another battle, it's the final step in proving you've surpassed him. Now compared to someone like Silver, Blue doesn't have a huge emotional arc in Gen 1. He doesn't change much. He's confident at the start and he's confident at the end. But that's where Gen 2 comes in. When you see him again later as the Viridian City gym leader, he's different. He's quieter, more composed, less arrogant, and more focused. It's subtle, but it shows growth. He's no longer the kid trying to prove he's the best. He's already been there, and now he's just a strong trainer. That continuation of his character adds a layer that most rivals don't get. And when you put it all together, His presence, his consistency, the feeling of chasing him, and the fact that he literally becomes champion before you, it's hard to beat. So for me, Blue is the best rival in Pokemon. Simple, iconic, and still the standard that every rival is compared to. Thank you everyone so much for watching. If you liked this video, you can follow my channel for more Pokemon.